The first thing I heard after coming back to life was my own name being shouted by a woman on a breaking news livestream. "Do you know who I am?" she screamed at the crowd gathering around a wrecked cobalt blue car. "I'm Evelyn Hartwell. My family owns half the buildings you people work in. Touch me, and I'll bury you in lawsuits." I sat frozen on the edge of my dorm room bed, one hand wrapped around my phone and the other pressed against my throat. My throat did not hurt, there was no smoke in my lungs, no blistering heat crawling over my skin, no locked car door beneath my fists while flames ate through the leather seats, no faces outside the windshield, twisted by grief and rage, watching the wrong woman die for a crime she had never committed. I was alive. The clock on my desk read 3:17 p.m. On September 14, the same date as the crash, the same date as the beginning of my death. On the screen, the woman claiming to be me shoved a phone out of a bystander's hand, her long chestnut hair swung across the back of a white leather jacket. Under it, she wore a red silk camisole, black jeans, and the gold chain belt I had bought in Milan the previous summer. My clothes, my hair, my car, my name. Madison Reed had always copied me in pieces. She bought cheaper versions of my sweaters, changed her perfume after asking what I wore, began ordering the same coffee, and once showed up to class in an outfit so similar to mine that 3 people asked whether we had planned it. She laughed every time. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. Evie, I had believed her in my first life. I believed her until I died. The live stream camera swung toward the street. A silver sedan had been crushed against a traffic light pole. Emergency workers surrounded it. But even through the shaky video I could see the white sheet over the driver's side and a child's blue sneaker on the asphalt. A family of 3, Sofia Alvarez, her husband, Mark, and their 7-year-old son, Noah. In my first life, I had learned their names only after their relatives dragged me into the garage behind Blake Holloway's birthday house. I had screamed those names through a locked car window, begging them to understand I had never met the Alvarezes, had never driven through East Oakland that afternoon, had never told a dying family that their lives were worthless. They had not believed me. Why would they? I had arrived in the same car, I had worn the same clothes, my hair had matched the woman in every witness video, and I had walked into a trap built by the 2 people I trusted most. On my phone, Madison kicked a shattered taillight out of her path and yelled, "They swerved in front of me. This is their fault. I'm not paying anyone a cent." A man shouted that the police were coming. Madison laughed, climbed back into my car, and drove away while people jumped back from the curb. I stopped the video and stared at my reflection in the black screen. My hair fell past my waist, thick and dark, the ends resting against the silk robe I had been wearing when I woke. I had not cut more than 2 inches at a time since I was 2 years old. My mother used to brush it before charity galas and tell me it made me look like the heroine in the old fairy tales she read when she was recovering from surgery for 18 years. My hair had been the first thing strangers noticed. It was also the detail that had made Madison's frame-up perfect. My phone began vibrating. Blake calling. I watched his name flash until the call went to voicemail. A second later, a message appeared. "Don't forget tomorrow. Madison says she has the perfect outfit planned for you. Wear your hair down. That's how I like it." In my first life, I had smiled when I read that message. Now I tasted ash. Blake had known what Madison did. The cloud backup from my car's dashboard camera had proved that much, though I found it too late. He had been in the passenger seat when she hit the Alvarez family. He had told her not to call an ambulance. He had coached her on what to say. Then, on the drive to his birthday house, they had designed the plan that would put me behind the wheel in everyone's mind. Dress Evelyn like the driver, make her take the car, send the grieving family an anonymous address, step aside and let rage finish the work. My hands shook, but not from fear. Fear had belonged to the girl trapped behind glass. The woman sitting on my bed had already died once. I opened the local map. The crash had happened near Lake Merritt at 2:41 p.m. In my first life, I had spent the afternoon on campus, alone, with no proof stronger than a few unanswered messages and a vending machine receipt I had thrown away. This time, I needed an alibi no one could erase, not one witness, not one security camera. I needed thousands. I called a salon in San Francisco's Union Square and asked for the first available senior stylist. "We have a cancellation at 4, the receptionist said. What service are you looking for? I gathered all 18 years of hair over one shoulder, a complete cut, I said, and after that, shave it. The receptionist went quiet. Shave it, every inch. I hung up, changed into a grey hoodie and loose black pants, then packed 2 phones, a power bank, my passport, my university ID, and the small velvet box containing the signet ring my father had given me on my 18th birthday. I also forwarded the accident video, Blake's message, and every recent conversation with Madison to a secure drive. At the door, I stopped. Madison's side of the room looked like a showroom built from my life. A perfume bottle identical to mine stood beside a framed photograph of her and Blake at a student charity event. My cream scarf hung from the back of her chair. One of my lipsticks was open on her desk. In my first life, I called those things accidents. Now I opened her closet. The red camisole and white leather jacket were missing, so were my gold belt and black jeans. I photographed the empty hangers and the drawer where she had hidden the spare key to my car. The key was gone. Then I walked out of the room and did not look back. On the ride across the Bay Bridge, I created a new account under the name Second Chance Eve. I turned on location services, enabled automatic cloud storage, and bought a promotional placement on 3 local livestream pages. The title I typed was simple: Heiress cuts off 18 years of hair for a cause. Live. I hesitated over the word heiress for most of my life. I had avoided it. At Crestmorn University, I used my mother's maiden name on informal accounts, wore unbranded clothes to class, and asked my parents not to send a driver. I wanted friends who saw me before they saw Hartwell Group. That decision had created room for Madison to borrow my identity. Being private was not the same as being ashamed. I tapped go live. The viewer count began at 12. By the time my car service reached Union Square, it had climbed above 6,000. I pulled my hood up, put on a black face mask, and walked into the salon beneath a wall of warm lights. The stylist, a silver-haired woman named June, met me near the reception desk. "You're sure?" she asked when I sat in her chair. I looked into the mirror for 1 second. I saw the old me, trusting, careful, eager to keep everyone comfortable. Then I saw fire reflected behind her. "Yes," I said, "start the camera close. I want the date, the clock, and the whole room visible." June divided my hair into thick sections and tied each one with elastic bands for donation. Viewers poured into the stream. 10,000, 25,000, 40,000. The first cut sounded like scissors closing on rope. A heavy braid landed in my lap. Something inside me broke with it. Something else finally became free. By the 3rd braid, the livestream chat had stopped making jokes. People asked why I was doing it. Some guessed a breakup. Others wrote that I had lost a bet or joined a cult. A cancer survivor named Marisol said she had worn a donated hair wig through high school and thanked me before I had even explained myself. I held the next braid in my hand and stared at it. My mother was ill when I was little, I told the camera. She recovered, but I remember how afraid she was of losing her hair during treatment. I kept mine because she loved it. Today I'm donating it to the Bright Tomorrow Foundation, which makes wigs for young patients. I'm also matching every donation made during this stream. That part had not existed in my first life. It was not a lie, but it was not the whole truth either. The whole truth was that I needed my hair gone before Madison could use it as evidence against me. Yet as the braids accumulated on the white counter, the decision became more than strategy. I thought of all the years I had treated my appearance like a family heirloom instead of part of my own body. I thought of every time Madison said, "Don't ever cut it. Blake loves it." No one had asked what I loved. June cut the final braid. My head felt impossibly light. "Still want the shave?" she asked. I ran my fingers through the uneven short layers. A chin-length cut would already separate me from the woman in the crash videos. A pixie cut would do even more. I could stop there and preserve enough softness to make tomorrow easier. Then my first death returned in a flash, heat, smoke. My palms sliding against a window too hot to touch. Madison standing outside the garage beside Blake, hidden behind the relatives who believed I had murdered their family. She had worn a cap over her hair and cried into Blake's chest while I burned. "Shave it," I said. June changed the guard on the clippers. The first pass left a pale line from my forehead to the crown of my head. The chat exploded. Viewer numbers jumped past 90,000. Someone clipped the moment and posted it to a local trend page. Then Madison called. I had expected it. In my first life, she called at 4:28 p.m. to remind me about Blake's birthday outfit. She had needed to make sure I would still have long hair when the trap closed. I set the second phone on the counter and answered on speaker. Hey, Maddie, where are you? Her voice was too quick. At a salon. There was a pause. A salon. June moved the clippers slowly across the side of my head. I tilted my phone so the live stream could see the screen but not Madison's number. Yes, why, what are you doing there? Getting ready for tomorrow. Her breath released in a small rush. She assumed I meant styling. Good. Blake wants everything perfect. Wear the red silk top, the white leather jacket, and those black jeans with the gold belt, you know, the outfit from your 20th birthday dinner, and leave your hair down, not half up like last time, completely down. Several viewers immediately commented that the clothes sounded familiar. The woman in the crash video had been filmed from 3 angles. Her face was partially hidden by sunglasses, but the outfit and waist-length hair were unmistakable. I widened my eyes for the camera. That is oddly specific. Madison gave a brittle laugh. I'm helping you. Blake told me it's his favorite look on you. Did he? Yes, he wants you to make an entrance. The clippers buzzed over my ear. I watched short pieces of hair fall like dark rain. Anything else? I asked. Bring the Cobalt car. It photographs better than your SUV. There it was. The chat began moving so fast I could barely read it. Why does she need the exact car from the crash? This is creepy, girl. Do not go to that party. Someone call the police. I kept my voice calm. The car is not with me right now. Another pause. Longer this time. What do you mean? I lent it out. To whom? I smiled beneath my mask. I'm surprised you're asking. Madison recovered quickly. I just mean Blake will be disappointed. He planned photos by the driveway. Find it before tomorrow, okay? She ended the call without saying goodbye. June switched off the clippers. My head was nearly bare, covered only by a soft shadow of dark hair. I looked unfamiliar and, for the first time, entirely mine. The chat was demanding an explanation. I lifted the white mask from my face but kept the camera angled so my features were partly hidden by the salon lights. Apparently, I said, a woman driving a Cobalt luxury car killed 3 people this afternoon while wearing the exact outfit my roommate wants me to wear tomorrow. She also had hair like mine and introduced herself using the name of a local family. Comments stopped for half a second, then surged. I continued. For the record, I have been in this salon since 3:56 p.m. The salon cameras, payment system, witnesses, livestream archive, and my ride receipt will confirm that. The crash occurred across the bay before I arrived, but I was already on the bridge in a hired car, and the route record is saved. A legal student in the chat wrote that location data could be challenged. True, I said, which is why I'm not relying on one form of evidence. I turned the camera toward June. She gave a small wave. Behind her, the salon's wall clock and a television news banner displayed the time and date. I turned the camera back. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning, I'll introduce everyone to the real Evelyn Hartwell. The name changed the mood instantly. Hartwell Group owned hotels, logistics companies, renewable energy projects, and a string of waterfront properties. My father was photographed often enough to be recognized. I was not. He and my mother had kept me out of the press after a kidnapping threat. When I was 8, some viewers accused me of chasing attention. Others said I was obviously lying because no billionaire's daughter would shave her head online. I did not argue. Instead, I pinned a promise: if I failed to prove my identity tomorrow, I will donate $1,000 to every verified viewer currently in this stream, up to $10 million. The number sounded outrageous because it was. It also ensured they would return. By the time I ended the stream, more than 200,000 people had watched at least part of it. The accident, the haircut, and Madison's call were already being edited into side-by-side videos. June packed my braids into a donation box. You're in trouble, she said quietly. I know. Do you have somewhere safe to go? I will. I called Mara Quinn, the head of litigation for Hartwell Group and the only person outside my immediate family who knew how often I concealed my identity at school. She answered on the second ring. Evelyn, your father is in Zurich, and if this is about the board packet, Mara, I need you to listen without interrupting. My roommate took my car, she was involved in a fatal hit and run, my boyfriend was with her, they are going to frame me tomorrow. Silence, then Mara's voice became precise and cold. Where are you? At a salon in Union Square. Stay there, send me everything. Do not contact the police until I review the chain of custody. Do not go back to your dorm. I'm still going to the party. No, yes, Evelyn. 3 people are dead, I know. In less than 24 hours, their family will be sent to Blake's house and told I'm the killer. If I don't go, Madison will destroy evidence and disappear. If I do go, she will try to expose me in front of witnesses. Mara exhaled slowly. You sound as if you have already seen this happen. I looked at the box containing 18 years of hair. I did not explain, not yet. Mara agreed to send a security team, a forensic technician, and a private investigator. I asked for one more thing, a live stream crew that looked independent, not corporate. You're turning this into a public operation, she asked. They plan to use public anger as a weapon. I'm taking the weapon away. After the call, I checked the tracking app linked to the Cobalt car. Madison had disabled ordinary location sharing, but she did not know the manufacturer's security service stored its last connection point. The vehicle had been parked in a private garage near Blake's rented estate in Atherton, exactly where it had been in my first life. A message from Blake appeared. Madison said, "You're acting weird. Don't ruin tomorrow with one of your moods." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I blocked him for precisely 10 minutes, long enough to make him nervous, and unblocked him without answering. Predators were easiest to catch when they thought the prey was still confused. I spent the night in a suite at the Hartwell Meridian Hotel under a name no one at Crestmore knew. Mara arrived at 8. With 2 laptops, 3 phones, and the expression she wore before hostile depositions. She was 42, sharply dressed, and incapable of pretending stupidity was harmless. By midnight, her team had preserved the salon stream, obtained an affidavit from June, copied security footage from 3 nearby businesses, and downloaded the car's cloud logs through the manufacturer's emergency legal portal. The dashboard video was encrypted. We can see that files were uploaded, the forensic technician said, but the complete media extraction may take another day. I need something before 10. We have telemetry, speed, braking, impact time, doors opening, seat weight sensors, and 2 voice thumbnails created by the cabin assistant. Voice thumbnails, short audio samples triggered when the system detects a command. He played the first clip. Madison's voice filled the suite. Stop calling emergency services. Then Blake, drive. We'll fix this. The clip ended. My knees weakened. In my first life, I had heard those words after death, when truth no longer helped me. Hearing them now felt like stealing evidence from a grave. Mara closed the laptop. This is enough for the police to open the right door. It may not be enough to prove the entire conspiracy. It will be, how? Madison sent the Alvarez family my name and Blake's address from a burner phone. She will keep it with her because she needs to know whether they are coming. Mara studied me. How do you know that? I could have invented a deduction. Instead, I said, because she did it before. Mara's face did not change, but the room became very quiet. You mean she has framed you before? Not in any way I can prove. That was the boundary I could give her. The truth, that I remembered dying, would make me sound unstable at the exact moment I needed everyone to trust my judgment. At 2:00 a.m., my father called from Zurich. His face appeared on the screen against a hotel office background. Richard Hartwell was a disciplined man whose worry always looked like anger. Mara told me your vehicle may be involved in a fatal collision. Madison was driving. Why did she have your key? Because I trusted her. His jaw tightened, and I knew he wanted to lecture me. Then he saw my head. What happened to your hair? I cut it, all of it. Yes. My mother leaned into view from beside him. Celeste lifted one hand to her mouth but did not ask why. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "You have your grandmother's face." The tenderness in her voice almost broke me. In my first life, they had flown home to identify my body. I had never seen their grief, but I had imagined it every night between death and rebirth. If there had been nights in that empty place at all. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "For the hair?" my mother asked. "For not telling you sooner that something was wrong." My father's anger shifted direction. "I am coming home. No, not before the party, Evelyn. If you arrive with corporate security and cameras, Madison will run. I need her to believe I'm still the girl she can dress, direct, and sacrifice. You are asking me to let you walk into a house with 2 people involved in 3 deaths. I'm asking you to trust the plan Mara is supervising. Mara, standing across the suite, raised one eyebrow at the generous description. My father finally agreed on 4 conditions: armed security nearby, police informed, a tracking device on me, and no private confrontation. I accepted all 4. At 9 the next morning, I put on a high-necked cream sweater, tailored navy trousers, ankle boots, and a silk scarf wrapped over my shaved head. The clothing was deliberately unlike the crash outfit. I wore no jewelry except the Hartwell signet ring. The livestream crew met me in the hotel garage. Leo Grant, a former Federal Protective Service agent, would act as my production assistant. Jamie Brooks, a documentary student with a serious face and excellent camera work, would film. A third team member, Priya Shah, handled the stream and monitored comments. They knew enough to protect me but not enough to perform. That mattered. By 9:52, nearly 100,000 viewers were waiting. I started the stream from the back seat of a black SUV. Yesterday I promised to introduce the real Evelyn Hartwell, I said. Today I'm keeping that promise. I did not immediately identify myself. Suspense kept viewers watching, and viewers were witnesses. Blake's birthday estate sat behind iron gates on a tree-lined road in Atherton. He had rented it for the weekend because he wanted photographs that suggested old money. In my first life, I had paid the deposit this time. When the gate attendant asked for my name, I said, Evelyn. He checked a list and waved us through. The driveway curved around clipped hedges toward a white stone house. My Cobalt car was not visible, but I knew the garage sat behind the west wing. Blake stood near the front steps wearing a camel-colored jacket and a smile prepared for photographs. The smile vanished when he saw my clothes. What are you wearing? He asked before saying hello. Good morning to you too. His eyes fixed on the scarf. And what did you do to your hair? Madison appeared behind him so quickly that I knew she had been watching the driveway. She wore a pale blue dress and pearl earrings copied from a set my mother had given me. Her own hair hung loose to the middle of her back, newly dyed the exact chestnut shade mine had been. For a moment, the resemblance was almost comical. Then I remembered a blue sneaker on asphalt. Madison crossed the steps and took my arm, her fingers dug in harder than a friendly touch. Come upstairs, she said. I laid out your outfit. I brought my own clothes. Blake asked for the red top. Blake nodded as if the matter were settled. I told you weeks ago. It's my favorite. Interesting. I don't remember you ever saying that before yesterday. Madison's grip tightened. She finally noticed Jamie's camera. What is this? A birthday documentary, I said. Blake loves attention. Blake straightened, half flattered despite his suspicion. Are we live? Why? Is there something here the public shouldn't see? His smile became rigid. Of course not. Madison stepped in front of the lens. Turn it off. I don't consent. You're on private property, Blake added, suddenly protective of her rather than me. Evelyn, tell them to stop, Priya murmured from behind the monitor. Comments are noticing that. I looked directly at Blake. I hired them. They work for me. His expression sharpened. He had never liked hearing me say those words. At Crestmorn, Blake performed equality while spending my money. He called my family's resources our opportunities and my boundaries elitist. He wanted the benefits of my name without ever admitting that I had given him access. Madison changed tactics. She smiled at the camera, though panic flickered beneath it. This is just a misunderstanding. Evelyn is sensitive because she wants Blake's birthday to be perfect. I picked a special outfit for her. She held up a garment bag. Priya zoomed the remote feed as Madison unzipped it. The white leather jacket appeared first, then the red silk top, then the black jeans and gold chain belt. Even Blake seemed briefly startled by how exact the set looked beside the still images from the accident. He recovered and said, "That's the one." I faced the camera. Does anyone watching recognize this outfit? Madison's smile disappeared. She pulled the garment bag closed. Stop being dramatic. 3 people died yesterday. A woman in this exact outfit drove away from the scene in my car while using my name. You want me to put it on, uncover my hair, and sit behind the wheel today. Tell me which part is dramatic." The guests nearest the door stopped pretending not to listen. Blake lowered his voice. "Not here." "Where, then?" "In the garage." The color left his face. That one word had reached him. Garage. In my first life, it was where they delivered me to an angry family. This time, Blake did not know how much I remembered. Before he could answer, tires screeched beyond the gate. A pickup truck forced its way past the attendant and raced up the drive. It stopped crooked across the circular entrance. A tall man in his late 50s climbed out holding a tire iron. His face looked older than it had in the news photograph from the night before. Daniel Alvarez had lost his daughter, his son-in-law, and his grandson in less than 24 hours. He looked at the gathered guests and shouted, "Which one of you is Evelyn Hartwell?" Madison stepped backward. Blake stepped in front of her, and I walked down the stairs. "I am Evelyn Hartwell," I said. Daniel Alvarez came at me with the tire iron raised. Leo moved first. He stepped between us, caught Daniel's wrist, and redirected the swing without striking him. The tire iron hit the gravel. Daniel fought like a man who no longer cared what happened to his own body. "You killed them," he shouted over Leo's shoulder. "You left my girl in the street. You stood there and laughed while my grandson was dying." Every accusation landed because, in another life, I had heard the same words through glass. I forced myself not to retreat. "Mr. Alvarez, I'm sorry for your loss, but I was not driving that car. I saw the videos." "So did I. You had that hair, those clothes." Your name came out of her mouth. Behind him, another vehicle rolled through the gate, a local news van, then a second car crowded with people holding signs and phones. Madison's anonymous message had traveled farther than it had in my first life. She had not only contacted Daniel, she had fed the address to reporters and rage accounts. A crowd was forming exactly as she intended. Good, I had brought my own cameras. "Leo," I said, "let him go." Leo looked at me as if I had asked him to step in front of traffic. "Evelyn, he needs answers. Let him stand." Daniel pulled free but did not reach for the tire iron again. His chest heaved, his eyes stayed fixed on me. I faced Jamie's camera. "Yesterday, at 4 in the afternoon, I began a public live stream from June and Finch Salon in Union Square. More than 200,000 people watched me cut off the hair I had grown for 18 years. The stream, salon security footage, payment record, traffic cameras, and ride service data establish where I was." Daniel shook his head. "The crash was before 4, yes, at 2:41, at that time, I was in a hired car. Crossing the Bay Bridge, the car's dash camera recorded me, the toll system recorded the plate, my phone connected to the bridge network. The driver is here by video and prepared to speak with police." Priya placed a time-stamped image on the livestream, me sitting in the back of a black sedan, long hair visible. The bridge tower behind me, the time displayed in the lower corner. It was not enough by itself, but it was a beginning. Daniel's anger faltered. Madison rushed down the steps. "She's manipulating you," she said. "She schedules everything. She could have recorded that earlier." I turned toward her. "You seem very invested in making Mr. Alvarez attack me. I'm trying to stop you from lying." "Then help him. Tell him who was driving." "I don't know. You had my car." Her eyes flicked toward the camera, then toward Blake. "I gave it back." "When?" "Yesterday morning." "To whom?" "To the valet at your building." "I don't have a valet at my dorm." "You know what I mean." "No, I don't." The guests had gone silent. Blake's college friends, who usually laughed whenever he mocked my caution, now watched him for direction. He gave them none. Madison reached for my scarf. The move was fast, almost desperate. "If you were in the salon, prove it," she said. "Show everyone your hair." Her fingers caught the silk at the side of my head and pulled. In my first life, that gesture had exposed waist-length hair and sealed my fate. This time, the scarf slipped free. Cold morning air touched my bare scalp. A collective sound moved through the driveway. Not quite a gasp, more like breath leaving a room at once. Madison stared at me, her face emptied. For one perfect second, every emotion she had concealed appeared without protection. Disbelief, calculation, terror. Then she screamed, "What did you do?" I picked up the scarf from the ground. "I got a haircut." "No, no, you didn't. You wouldn't." "I did. You loved your hair." I loved my life more. Her mouth opened, but no words came. The chat feed on Priya's monitor blurred with messages. She knew, look at her face. Why is the roommate more upset than the boyfriend? The woman from the crash had hair to her waist. This was planned. Daniel looked from my shaved head to Madison's long chestnut hair. The resemblance was suddenly impossible to ignore. Madison had my former color, my former length, and even the same center part. He pointed at her. Turn around. Madison backed away. Why? Turn around. I am not some suspect you can order around. Yesterday's driver was filmed from behind. His voice cracked. Turn around. Blake stepped between them. Mr. Alvarez, you're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. Daniel's focus snapped to him. How do you know my name? Blake went still. The question seemed small, but it cut through the noise. No one had introduced Daniel. His name had appeared in news coverage, but Blake had spent the last several minutes pretending he knew nothing about the accident beyond what everyone saw online. I watched the news, Blake said. So did thousands of people, I replied. Most reports identified the victims, not the father of an adult woman who lived in another county. His name appeared only in one article published after midnight. Blake's jaw tightened. I read it. At what time? You told me at 12:14 a.m. that you were asleep. I raised my phone and showed the message on camera. Blake had texted after I ignored him. Going to bed. Don't bring drama tomorrow. Madison recovered enough to speak. This is insane. Evelyn is turning Blake's birthday into some public trial because she's jealous. Jealous of what? I asked. Madison's gaze shifted to Blake again. Of you. She almost said that was the center of her world. She believed every conflict between women must be about a man because the only power she understood was borrowed from one. Daniel bent and picked up his phone from the gravel. Someone sent me this address at 6 this morning, he said. They said the killer would arrive at 10 wearing the same clothes. They said she would be in the blue car. He opened the message and held it out. The sender had included my full name, Blake's rental address, a photograph of the garment bag, and a cropped image of me from behind. Madison had prepared the trap before I cut my hair. I asked, did the sender say how they knew? They said they worked for your family and couldn't stay silent. And did they tell you to contact police? Daniel's expression changed. No. Did they tell you to contact a lawyer? No. What did they tell you to do? He looked ashamed. Make sure you couldn't escape again. Murmurs moved through the crowd. The message was not a tip, it was an invitation to kill me. Madison took another step backward. I saw her hand slide into her purse. Priya saw it too. She's checking something. I spoke loudly enough for every camera. Mr. Alvarez, call the number that sent the message. Madison's hand stopped. Daniel stared at me, then pressed the call icon. A ringtone sounded from Madison's purse. It was bright and childish, a tune she used on an old pink phone she claimed was only for international travel. No one moved. The phone rang again. Madison gripped the purse against her hip. Blake whispered, turn it off. That whisper was caught by Jamie's microphone. Daniel walked toward her. Give me the phone. Madison shook her head. It isn't mine. It's in your bag. Evelyn planted it. I laughed once. Without humor. I arrived 10 minutes ago under continuous camera coverage. Daniel reached for the purse. Madison tried to run. Leo caught her before she reached the side path. He did not throw her or twist her arm. He simply blocked her route and held out one hand. Stay where you are. Police are on the way. That sentence broke the spell. Guests began talking all at once. Reporters pushed closer. People outside the gate shouted questions. Blake stepped away from Madison by a full pace, creating distance so visibly that even she noticed. Her face turned toward him. Don't, she said. He did not answer. I knew that look. In my first life, he had worn it while calculating whether he could still save himself. I had once confused his coldness with confidence. Now I recognized cowardice. The police arrived 6 minutes later. Detective Nina Patel led the first group through the gate. She had already spoken with Mara and knew the operation was being streamed, but her expression showed no interest in performing for the cameras. Phones down unless you are media behind the marked line, she ordered. No one leaves until we identify witnesses. 2 uniformed officers separated Daniel from the party guests. Another secured the tire iron. Leo stepped aside and explained why he had restrained Madison. Madison began crying before anyone questioned her, not quiet tears. She folded inward, shaking, one hand over her mouth as if she might collapse. "I'm being targeted," she said. "Evelyn hates me because Blake and I are close. She has money, she can make anything look real." The old me would have rushed to comfort her. I had seen Madison use tears after stealing my dress, after spreading a rumor about a teaching assistant, after getting caught reading my private messages. Every time, the conversation moved from what she had done to how cruel everyone was for noticing. Detective Patel looked at the purse still hanging from Madison's shoulder. "Is there a phone inside that does not belong to you?" Madison sniffed. "I don't know. People had access to my bag." "Who?" "Everyone. Name one person." She glanced around. "Evelyn's crew." Jamie kept the camera steady. Priya immediately marked the prior footage showing the crew arriving after Madison. Detective Patel said, "I'm going to ask for your consent to look inside the bag. You can refuse. If you refuse, I will secure it while we apply for a warrant." Madison looked at Blake. He stared at the ground. "Fine," she whispered. "Look." The detective put on gloves and opened the purse on the hood of a patrol car. She removed a wallet, makeup, keys, a portable charger, and 2 phones. One was Madison's regular phone, the other was a small prepaid device with a cracked pink case. Daniel called the anonymous number again. The pink phone lit up. Detective Patel photographed the screen before silencing it. Madison's crying stopped. The absence of tears was more revealing than the tears themselves. "You said it wasn't yours," the detective said. "It isn't. Evelyn must have put it there earlier." "Earlier when?" "At the dorm. You told the responding officer you had not seen Ms. Hartwell since yesterday morning." Madison's eyes darted. "Then she gave it to someone else." "Who?" "I don't know." The detective sealed the phone in an evidence bag. I watched Daniel's hands curl into fists. He had driven to the estate prepared to punish me, and now he was looking at the person who had guided his grief like a weapon. "You sent me here," he said. Madison shook her head. "No. You told me my family's killer would be dressed like that." He pointed at the garment bag. "You told me to make sure she couldn't leave." "I didn't. You wanted me to hurt her." "No." Daniel lunged. Officers caught him before he reached her. He fought them for one desperate second, then collapsed against the patrol car, sobbing. "My grandson was 7, he said. 7. I was supposed to take him fishing next weekend." The crowd quieted. The tragedy had become entertainment online within hours. Clips, theories, arguments about wealth and privilege. Hearing Daniel speak reduced it to what it was: 3 people who had plans until a car took them away. I walked toward him slowly. "Mr. Alvarez." He looked up, his face wet. "I am sorry my property was used. I am sorry my name made it harder for people to see the truth. My legal team will provide every record we have. And I will pay for independent counsel for your family, whether you forgive me or not." Blake made a sharp sound behind me. "Evelyn, don't promise that on camera." I turned. He had forgotten the role he was supposed to play. A concerned boyfriend would have comforted me. Blake was worried about financial exposure. "Why not?" I asked. "Because it makes you look responsible. It makes me look human. It could be construed as an admission." Mara stepped through the gate at that moment. No, it could not. She wore a charcoal suit and carried a tablet. 2 Hartwell security officers followed at a distance. Blake's face tightened when he recognized her. Mara joined us and addressed Detective Patel. "I have the preservation notices, vehicle ownership records, and preliminary telematics. I also have a statement from the salon, the hired driver, and the hotel where Ms. Hartwell stayed last night." Detective Patel accepted the tablet. "We'll take formal copies." Mara looked at Madison. "I suggest everyone stop making spontaneous accusations." Madison's voice became small. "I need a lawyer." "That is the first sensible thing you have said," Mara replied. Blake approached me while the officers spoke to witnesses. "Can we talk privately?" "No, Evelyn, please. I know how this looks." "How does it look?" "Like Madison did something terrible and dragged me into it." "She dragged you into my car too." His face changed. The public did not yet know about the passenger seat sensor or voice clip. Blake assumed the crash video had not captured him because he remained inside until the car left. "I wasn't in your car," he said. "Then you have nothing to worry about." "I don't." "Good." He reached for my hand. I stepped back. The Movement was small, but it ended 3 years of habit. Blake had always used touch to close arguments before I finished speaking. A hand at my waist, fingers around my wrist, a kiss placed like punctuation after a decision he made for both of us. "Stop treating me like a suspect," he said. "I am not the detective. You're my girlfriend, am I?" He looked toward the camera and lowered his voice. "Do not humiliate me in front of everyone." There it was again. Not "Are you safe?" Not "How can I help?" Not "I'm sorry, do not humiliate me." I raised my left hand so the live stream could see the slim gold bracelet he had given me for our anniversary. In my first life, I died wearing it. I unclasped it and placed it in his palm. "Happy birthday, Blake." He stared at the bracelet. "What are you doing?" "Ending the relationship. You're upset. I'm clear. You will regret making a permanent decision in the middle of a crisis." I already regretted the decision that lasted 3 years. A ripple of comments moved across Priya's monitor. The audience understood a breakup more easily than vehicle forensics. The clip spread within minutes. Blake closed his fist around the bracelet. "This is because of her." He nodded toward Madison as if he had not spent the morning shielding her. "No," I said. "This is because of you." Detective Patel called Blake's name. He turned too quickly. "We need your statement," she said, "and consent to examine your phone. My phone has confidential information." "What kind?" "Student government work, private messages, family matters." "You may refuse. We can secure it pending a warrant." Blake looked at me. "Tell her this is unnecessary." I said nothing. His expression hardened into something ugly and familiar. "You think your family can protect you forever?" Mara moved between us. "Mr. Holloway, you should decide whether you are speaking as a witness, a suspect, or an ex-boyfriend. At the moment, you are doing all three badly," Detective Patel asked. "Again for the phone." Blake refused. The detective sealed it anyway after contacting the on-call prosecutor and documenting exigent circumstances tied to the fatal collision and possible evidence destruction. Blake protested loudly enough for every camera to record. Then an officer approached from the west side of the house. "We found the vehicle," he said. Madison's head snapped up. The officer continued. "Cobalt Bentley, custom plate EH20, parked in the rear garage, front end damage, blood transfer. On the bumper, driver's door wiped down, passenger side interior appears recently cleaned." Daniel made a sound like an animal in pain. Blake went pale. Madison whispered, "Evelyn set us up." I looked at her. "No, Madison, I survived you." The garage became a crime scene. Police tape crossed the driveway. Forensic technicians photographed the Bentley before touching it. A news helicopter circled high above the neighborhood, and the party guests were moved into the house one by one for interviews. The live stream remained outside the restricted area. I could not show the investigators working, but I did not need to. The official statement that my car had been found damaged on Blake's rented property was enough to change the story everywhere. The headline that morning had been "Heiress wanted after deadly hit and run." By noon, it was "Copycat roommate questioned in Hartwell car deaths." I should have felt victorious. Instead, I sat on a low stone wall and watched Daniel give detectives a photograph of his family. Sophia had her father's eyes. Mark wore a baseball cap and held Noah on his shoulders. All three were laughing at something outside the frame. Rebirth had given me a second life, but not enough time to save theirs. That truth hollowed out the triumph. Mara sat beside me. "You did not cause the collision. I owned the car. You lent it to someone you considered a friend." I ignored signs. Signs that she copied your clothes, not that she would kill 3 people. She stole my key twice before. She lied constantly. She wanted everything I had. Wanting your life is not the same as being willing to take lives. I looked at the garage. For her, maybe it was. Mara did not ask what I meant. Detective Patel approached with an evidence technician. "Ms. Hartwell, we need you to identify property found in the vehicle." I followed them to a folding table outside the taped line. The items had been bagged separately. My driving gloves, a silver compact, the white sunglasses Madison wore in the crash video, a torn parking receipt, a bottle of vodka, and a bracelet engraved with Blake's initials. The bracelet was his. I had given it to him on our first anniversary. Detective Patel held up the evidence bag. "You're certain?" "Yes, the clasp was repaired last spring. There's a small solder mark near the hinge." The technician photographed the detail. Anything else? Patel asked. I pointed to the compact. Mine. It was in my dorm drawer yesterday morning. Could Ms. Reed have borrowed it? She borrowed things. After asking, she stole things and later called them borrowed. The detective's mouth moved slightly, not quite a smile. Understood. The white sunglasses were Madison's. The vodka had Blake's fingerprints on the unopened cap and Madison's on the bottle. The receipt placed the car at a gas station 12 minutes before the crash. Then the technician brought out the key fob. It was not my primary key, it was the spare Madison had removed from her drawer. There are 2 programmed fobs, I explained. Mine is with hotel security. That one was kept in our dorm. Madison claimed she needed it once when I was out of town, so I let her store it in her lockbox. You let her keep the spare to a car worth more than most homes? Detective Patel asked. The question was neutral, but shame rose anyway. I thought she was my best friend. Patel nodded. Trust can be expensive. That doesn't make it criminal. A forensic analyst called her away. Mara's phone rang. She listened, then handed it to me. It's the Vehicle Manufacturers Council. A man introduced himself and explained that the complete cloud archive had been preserved. The system recorded cabin audio only after specific commands or impact events, but the collision had triggered a continuous 90-second safety buffer. Can you provide it to police? I asked, with the owner's consent and a warrant. Yes, Ms. Quinn has already signed the preservation authorization. Detective Patel's office is obtaining the warrant now. Has anyone tried to delete it? There was a remote deletion request from the secondary user profile at 6:12 p.m. yesterday. It failed because impact data is locked under our safety policy. Which profile? Madison Reed. I closed my eyes. In my first life, I accessed the same archive on the morning of Blake's birthday. Minutes before I was lured into the garage, I had downloaded screenshots to my phone but never sent them to anyone. When the family attacked, my phone fell beneath the car. The evidence burned with me this time. The cloud had remembered. The warrant arrived shortly after 1. Detective Patel listened to the recovered audio inside a patrol command vehicle. Mara and I were permitted to hear it because I owned the car and had already been interviewed. The recording began with music and Blake laughing. Madison said, "Stop telling me how to drive. You're doing 80 in a 35. So, people are filming the car. You wanted to get there fast." Tires squealed, a horn blared. Then came the impact. Metal folded with a deep, violent sound. Glass shattered. Someone screamed outside for 4 seconds. Neither Madison nor Blake spoke. Then Madison said, "Oh my God." Blake cursed. A child was crying faintly beyond the car. That sound cut through me. Madison opened the driver's door. Blake said, "Don't touch them." A stranger shouted, "Call an ambulance." Madison's voice changed. It became loud, theatrical, cruel. "They pulled in front of me. This is not my fault," someone asked. "For her name," Blake whispered. "Use Evelyn's." Madison said, "I'm Evelyn Hartwell." The rest matched the public videos. Her threats, her insults, her claim that the victims wanted money. But inside the car, when she returned, her voice was shaking. "I think the kid is dead," Blake replied. "Then leaving doesn't make it worse. We need to call someone. We need to clean the car." "What about witnesses? They saw Evelyn." Madison began to breathe faster. Blake continued, "Calm now. Tomorrow, she wears the same clothes. She takes the car. We send the family the address. They'll do the rest. What if they only call the police? Then she gets arrested instead of us. What if she refuses the clothes? She never refuses me." The recording ended. No one in the command vehicle moved. I stared at the black screen of the audio workstation. He never sounded uncertain, not once. Blake had not been swept into Madison's panic. He had designed my death before the car left the scene. Detective Patel removed her headphones. Her voice was lower when she spoke. "We are arresting both of them." "For the collision?" Mara asked. "Ms. Reed for vehicular manslaughter, felony hit and run, evidence tampering, identity theft, and conspiracy. Mr. Holloway for failure to render aid, accessory conduct, evidence tampering, identity theft, and conspiracy. Additional charges will depend on the anonymous message and whether prosecutors treat the plan against Ms. Hartwell as attempted murder. Attempted murder. In this life, it had failed before anyone touched me. In the other life, It had worked. Officers brought Madison and Blake out separately. Madison had mascara streaks down her face. Blake looked furious rather than frightened when he saw me. He twisted away from the officer holding his arm. "Evelyn, tell them I didn't mean it." The driveway went quiet enough that I could hear camera shutters beyond the gate. "You didn't mean which part?" I asked. "Leaving a family in the street, using my name, or arranging for their relatives to attack me?" I was panicking. "You sounded calm." His eyes widened. He knew then that I had heard the recording. Madison began shouting from beside the second patrol car. "He told me to do it. He said you would forgive him because you always forgive him." Blake turned on her. "You were driving. You grabbed the wheel." "That is a lie. You told me to use her name. You wanted her life before I ever touched you." The argument continued as police placed them in separate vehicles. Their loyalty lasted exactly as long as their freedom. Daniel stood near the gate, watching when the patrol cars pulled away. He came toward me. Leo shifted, but I raised a hand to stop him. Daniel's anger was gone. What remained looked heavier. "I almost killed you," he said. "You were manipulated. I still chose to come with a weapon." "Yes." He flinched at my honesty. "I don't know how to live with that. You live by refusing to let them take a fourth life." His eyes filled again. "I'm sorry. So am I." "For what?" "For waking up too late to stop the crash." He looked confused, but Mara heard the words. Her gaze sharpened before either could ask. My parents' car turned into the driveway. My mother was out before the driver fully stopped. She crossed the gravel, saw my bare head, and pulled me into her arms. I had died once believing I was alone this time. In front of police, cameras, strangers, and the ruined remains of Blake's birthday, I held my mother and finally allowed myself to shake. The story should have ended with the arrests. Online, that was where most people wanted it to end. The villains were handcuffed. The heiress had survived. The dead family had a name. The livestream had delivered a clean reversal in less than 4 hours. Real life was not clean. By sunset, Madison's lawyer issued a statement claiming she had experienced an acute psychological crisis after Blake pressured her to drive recklessly. Blake's family hired a crisis management firm that described him as a traumatized passenger who made ill-considered remarks under extreme stress. Neither statement mentioned Noah Alvarez crying after the crash. Neither mentioned the anonymous message sent to his grandfather. By midnight, edited clips began circulating that made me look calculating. One showed me smiling after promising to reveal the real Hartwell heiress. Another isolated my statement that I had survived Madison. A third claimed I had used the death of a family to launch an influencer career. The original stream remained available. But truth rarely traveled alone. It dragged distortions behind it. My parents wanted me home at our estate in Hillsborough. I refused to disappear. "If I hide," I said, "Blake's people will define the silence." My father stood at the window of the hotel suite, watching reporters gather below. "You are not a public relations campaign." "No, I'm the person they tried to turn into one." My mother sat beside me on the sofa. She touched the faint stubble on my head as if learning a new map. "You do not have to prove your strength every hour," she said. "I know. I did not know in my first life. Helplessness had killed me. In this one, stopping felt too much like surrender." Mara arranged one interview with a respected local journalist, Camille Ross, under strict conditions. No discussion of my private wealth. No speculation about Madison's mental health. No release of the most disturbing audio until prosecutors approved. Camille met me in a quiet conference room the next morning. She was not interested in my haircut as spectacle. Her first question was about the Alvarezes. "Do you believe your livestream protected you at the expense of their privacy?" The question hurt because it was fair. "Yes," I said, "the livestream protected me. It also turned the worst day of their family's life into public content. I cannot undo that. I can only refuse to profit from it." I announced that all advertising revenue, donations, and licensing payments connected to the stream would go into a legal and educational trust chosen by Daniel Alvarez. Hartwell Group would match the amount without using the gift in marketing. "Is that guilt?" Camille asked. "Partly." "For what?" "For owning the weapon they used, for failing to understand who I had invited into my life, for being alive when 3 people are not. Those are not crimes." "No, But innocence does not erase responsibility to respond. The interview aired that evening. It did not silence everyone, but it changed the center of the conversation. For the first time, headlines focused on the conspiracy rather than my hair. Then the complete dashboard archive was released to the defense teams under discovery within hours. Someone leaked it. The 90-second recording appeared on a gossip account with captions and dramatic music. Millions heard Blake say, "She never refuses me." Millions heard Madison use my name. Millions heard a child crying in the background. I listened once more, alone, and then deleted every copy from my phone. The cloud had remembered what human beings wanted to edit. Crestmorne University placed Madison and Blake on interim suspension. The dean's office also sent me a formal notice requesting a meeting about conduct inconsistent with community standards. Specifically the unauthorized commercial livestream at a private event. I read the message twice. "They're investigating you," my father asked. "They're investigating the stream. They should be sending flowers. They're afraid of being sued by every student visible in the footage." Mara agreed. They also accepted a major donation from the Holloway Foundation last year. Blake's father, senatorial candidate Grant Holloway, had funded Crestmont's new leadership center. Blake treated the building like a family property. I had spent years thinking his influence came from charm. In reality, someone had always paid for the room to tilt toward him. The university hearing was scheduled for the following week. Before that, Detective Patel asked me to come to the station and identify additional materials recovered from Madison's dorm laptop. The police had found folders labeled Evie Hair, Evie Closet, Evie Voice, and Hartwell Family. There were hundreds of photographs of me, some taken from social media, others taken while I slept, studied, or changed clothes. Madison had recorded my speech patterns and practiced my signature. She maintained a spreadsheet of my parents' travel, my class schedule, the cars I used, and the passwords she had guessed. On one page, she had written, "People believe confidence before facts. If I look like Evelyn, we're Evelyn, and act offended enough, no one will question me." I stared at the sentence until Detective Patel closed the laptop. "This was not ordinary jealousy," she said. "No. Did you ever feel unsafe around her?" "Not until I understood what she was doing." "Why did you tolerate the copying?" The answer embarrassed me more than it should have, because I thought objecting would make me arrogant. Everyone already assumed I was spoiled. Madison knew that. Whenever I asked her not to take something, she said I was treating her like a poor girl who should be grateful. "So you kept giving?" "Yes, and Mr. Holloway," he said, sharing proved I was not controlled by money. Detective Patel leaned back. "They converted your boundaries into evidence of bad character." Hearing it stated plainly made the pattern visible. Madison did not steal my life in one dramatic act. She trained me to surrender it piece by piece, then accused me of cruelty whenever I reached for anything back. Police also found messages between her and Blake. At first, they mocked me. "Evie bought another boring sweater. Give it a week and Maddie will make it look hot." She said no to letting me use the car. I told her she was becoming like her father. She apologized 5 minutes later. The later messages were darker. "Once people think I'm Evelyn, she becomes the copy. You don't need to be her." Blake had replied, "You just need her access." The night before the crash, Madison sent him a photograph of my spare key. Blake answered with one word, "Finally." I did not cry at the station. I cried that night while my mother sat on the bathroom floor with me, not because I still loved Blake. Whatever love had existed died in the garage of my first life. I cried because I remembered every time my instincts had spoken and I had called them unkind. My mother let me grieve without correcting me. When I finished, she handed me a towel and said, "Trusting the wrong people does not make you foolish forever." Refusing to learn would. I looked at my reflection. Bare head, swollen eyes, no familiar curtain of hair to hide behind. Then I'll learn. Crestmont's disciplinary hearing took place in a wood-paneled room designed to make students feel smaller than the institution. 3 administrators sat behind a long table. The chair, Vice Provost Eleanor Whitcomb, began by expressing sympathy for the Alvarez family and concern for my safety. Then she asked why I had chosen to broadcast a private birthday gathering. Without written consent from every attendee, because the gathering was the location of an active plan to frame me for 3 deaths, I said, "Did you know that before arriving, I had strong reason to believe it? Then why not allow law enforcement to handle the matter privately?" Law enforcement had not yet identified the driver. The people involved were preparing to place me in the vehicle, in the driver's clothes, at a location they had sent to an armed and grieving man. Private handling had already failed. One administrator adjusted his glasses. "Your stream exposed students who were not involved. We blurred bystanders in the archived version within hours. That does not change the live broadcast." "No, it does not. I refused to pretend every decision had been perfect." Defensive people lied. I had learned that from Madison and Blake. Vice Provost Whitcomb asked whether the large monetary promise had been designed to increase viewership. Yes. Was that appropriate? It was effective. That was not my question. No, it was not an ideal way to gather witnesses. It was the way available to me in the time I had. Mara sat beside me but did not speak unless asked. She had warned me that institutions often punished the person who made danger visible because visibility created liability. The hearing shifted when student representatives submitted written testimony. One was from Hannah Cole, a sophomore who had lived across the hall from us. She described Madison entering our room with my key, borrowing my clothing without permission, and once practicing my signature on a delivery receipt. Another came from a resident advisor who had dismissed my complaint about missing property as roommate tension. A third came from a student photographer who had seen Blake and Madison kissing behind the Leadership Center 2 months earlier. People had noticed, they had simply chosen not to become involved. That fact stayed with me after the hearing. Dozens of students waited outside. Some held signs supporting me, others wanted selfies. A few shouted that billionaires should not receive special treatment. I agreed with the last group more than they expected. Special treatment protected Blake for years. I told a student reporter, "It did not protect me." The answer is not to ignore evidence because one person is wealthy. The answer is to apply the same standard to everyone. Crestmorn cleared me of serious misconduct but issued a written warning regarding unauthorized recording. The university also announced an independent review of residence hall complaints and donor influence. Grant Holloway called my father that afternoon. My father placed the call on speaker at my request. Grant's voice was smooth. "Richard, our families have known each other for years. This has become ugly beyond proportion. 3 people are dead," my father said. "Blake did not drive. He told the driver to leave. He was 21 and frightened. He was 21 and calculating." Grant paused. "The leaked audio lacks context. What context makes we send the family the address and they'll do the rest acceptable?" I asked. He had not known I was listening. "Evelyn," he said, changing tone immediately, "I am deeply sorry you were placed in danger. Blake cares for you. He is devastated by the breakup and by what Madison did. He was sleeping with Madison. College relationships are complicated. Conspiracy is less complicated." Grant sighed as if I were a child refusing useful advice. "A public trial will re-traumatize everyone. Blake is willing to accept responsibility for failing to report the crash. In return, the more speculative allegations should be resolved quietly. He was offering a private arrangement, a lesser plea, a controlled statement, and probably a generous settlement." "What happens to Madison?" I asked. "That is not our concern." The answer exposed him more clearly than any insult could have. Blake had learned loyalty at home. My father said, "There will be no deal involving my daughter's silence." Grant's voice cooled. "Hartwell Group has projects that depend on state approvals." My father smiled without warmth. "Are you threatening a witness in a recorded call?" Grant ended the conversation. The recording went to prosecutors 2 days later. His campaign suspended operations. Madison tried a different strategy from jail. Through her attorney, she requested a meeting with me. She claimed to have information about Blake's role that she would reveal only if I asked prosecutors to support bail. Mara advised against it. Detective Patel said the meeting could be arranged and recorded if I believed it would help. I agreed. Madison entered the interview room wearing an orange uniform and no makeup. Her hair, once dyed to match mine, was pulled into a loose knot. Without my clothes and styling, she looked younger, smaller. For a dangerous moment, pity stirred, then I remembered Noah's cry. Madison sat across from me behind the glass partition. You look strange, she said, touching her own hair. So do you, she smiled weakly. I guess we both lost something. No, I chose what I lost. Her smile vanished. She leaned closer to the phone. Blake planned everything after the crash. I was in shock. He told me if we went to prison our lives were over. He said you would be fine because your family could protect you. You still sent Daniel Alvarez to kill me. I didn't think he would kill you. You told him to make sure I couldn't escape. I was scared. So was the child crying outside the car. Madison looked away. I never meant to hit them. But you meant to become me. Her eyes returned to mine for the first time. She stopped pretending. You had everything before you knew what everything was, she said. A family that answered the phone, a name that opened doors, teachers who remembered you. People looked at me and saw someone temporary. Then I wore your coat one day, and they looked twice. So you decided my life belonged to you. I decided you didn't deserve all of it. Deserving was never the question. It always is when you have less. I understood envy. I did not accept her conclusion. You could have built something, I said. You were smart. You had a scholarship. You had people willing to help. Help is another word rich people use for control, and theft was your word for freedom. Her face hardened. You think cutting your hair made you brave. No, it made your plan visible. I hate you. I know. Blake loved me more. The claim sounded rehearsed, the final possession she still believed she could take. Then you can keep that memory, I said. It is the only thing of mine you are leaving with. I stood. Madison struck the glass with her palm. Evelyn, you need my testimony. No, the car testified, the cloud recording, the burner phone, the vehicle telemetry, the copied identity files, and Blake's bracelet already formed a chain stronger than either defendant's loyalty. For once, Madison could not improve her position by becoming someone else. Criminal cases move slowly, especially when defendants have money, competing stories, and lawyers paid to turn certainty into procedure. 6 months passed before the preliminary hearing. My hair grew back as a dark, uneven shadow, then a soft crop. I returned to classes but moved out of the dorm. I rented a small apartment near campus under my own name and hired no decorator. The first piece of furniture I bought was a plain oak desk I assembled badly by myself. One leg remained slightly crooked. I kept it that way. It reminded me that something could be imperfect and still belong entirely to me. Daniel Alvarez came to campus twice. The first time, he met with the university's legal clinic. The second, he spoke at a road safety forum about bystander responsibility after collisions. He never called me a friend. Grief did not require that kind of neat ending. But he stopped apologizing every time he saw me, and I stopped offering money before he asked. We learned to occupy the same room without turning our pain into a transaction. At the preliminary hearing, prosecutors played the vehicle audio in open court. Madison looked down through most of it. Blake stared straight ahead until his own voice said, "She never refuses me." Then he glanced toward me. I did not look away. His attorney argued that the line referred only to my willingness to attend the party. Madison's attorney argued that Blake had exercised coercive control. Both tried to separate the crash from the later plan, as if panic could excuse a decision sustained across an entire night. Detective Patel testified about the burner phone. The forensic analyst explained how Madison's laptop contained drafts of the anonymous message and a saved photograph of the garment bag. The vehicle engineer authenticated the safety buffer and deletion attempt. Then I testified. The prosecutor began with my relationship to Madison. We were roommates and friends, I said. At least, I believed we were. Did you give her permission to use your identity? No. Did you give her permission to take the Bentley on September 14th? No. Did you agree to wear the clothing found in the garment bag? No. Why did you cut your hair? The courtroom waited. I could not tell them the literal truth, that I remembered dying because I had obeyed. I gave them the truth that could survive evidence. I saw the crash footage. The driver had copied my appearance and used my name. My roommate called and insisted I preserve that appearance for the next morning. I believed someone was preparing to identify me as the driver. Cutting my hair created a visible, irreversible distinction and a public timeline. Did you intend to generate publicity? Yes. Why? Because a private person can be isolated. A public record is harder to erase. Blake's attorney approached for cross-examination. He was polished, courteous, and skilled at making accusations sound like concern. Ms. Hartwell, you had access to substantial resources, correct? Yes. Private investigators, lawyers, security personnel. Yes. Yet rather than contacting police immediately, you orchestrated a live stream event. I preserved evidence through counsel and notified police before entering the estate. But you wanted the confrontation. I wanted the plan exposed while evidence remained in place. You hired a camera crew. Yes. You promoted the stream with a $10 million promise. Yes. You understood that hundreds of thousands of people might direct anger toward my client. I understood that your client had directed an armed grieving man toward me. The prosecutor objected, the judge sustained. But the answer had been heard. The attorney changed direction. You were angry because Mr. Holloway was unfaithful. I learned about the affair after I suspected the frame-up. Your livestream repeatedly highlighted his closeness with Ms. Reed. Their behavior highlighted it. Few people in the gallery reacted. The judge warned them. Ms. Hartwell, the attorney said, is it possible you interpreted ordinary confusion as a conspiracy because you felt betrayed? No. How can you be certain? Because ordinary confusion does not draft an anonymous message telling a bereaved father where to find me dressed as the driver. Ordinary confusion does not wipe blood from a car and request deletion of impact data. Ordinary confusion does not say, we send the family the address and they'll do the rest. He paused. No further questions. The judge ordered both defendants to stand trial on the major counts, including conspiracy to commit murder, outside the courthouse. Reporters shouted about victory. I did not feel victorious. The hearing had established that there was enough evidence to continue. It had not returned 3 lives. It had not erased the sensation of smoke from my dreams that night. I woke at 2:41 a.m. Unable to breathe, I went to the bathroom, turned on the shower, and sat on the floor until the steam proved it was only water. For months, I had treated survival as a task list: preserve, expose, testify, respond. My body had waited until the danger passed to admit it was still afraid. The next morning, I called a trauma therapist Mara had recommended. It was the least cinematic decision I made in the entire story. It may have been the one that saved me most. The trial began 11 months after the crash. By then, my hair reached my jaw. Reporters treated its growth like a timeline, comparing every courthouse photograph to the live stream image of my bare head. I stopped reading those articles. Hair had saved me once, but I refused to let it become the only language people used to describe me. Madison and Blake were tried together over their attorney's objections. The prosecution argued that their crimes were inseparable. She drove, he encouraged the escape. Both used my identity, and together they created the plan that was supposed to place me in front of Daniel Alvarez. The defense strategy was separation. Madison's attorney portrayed her as a financially insecure young woman psychologically dominated by a privileged boyfriend. Blake's attorney portrayed him as a passive passenger manipulated by an obsessed roommate. Each needed the other to become the monster. The prosecution needed only the truth. The first week focused on the collision. Witnesses described the speed of the Bentley, the impact, and the delay before emergency responders could reach the Alvarez family. A nurse who had stopped at the scene testified that Madison slapped her phone away when she tried to call for help. The medical examiner's testimony was the hardest. Daniel left the courtroom before it ended. I followed a minute later and found him standing by a vending machine, staring at a package of crackers without seeing it. You don't have to stay for every detail, I said. Neither do you. I know. Do you? That was fair. We sat on a bench until the session ended. During the second week, the state presented the identity theft and conspiracy evidence. Images from Madison's laptop appeared on a large screen, my clothing organized by brand and date, notes about my speech, photographs of my signature, a list of questions reporters might ask Evelyn Hartwell after a scandal. The jury watched Madison practicing my smile in a dorm room mirror for the first time. I saw what strangers saw. It was not resemblance, it was hunger. Blake's messages appeared next. Make her think it was her idea. She apologizes whenever you call her spoiled once she drives the car tomorrow. We're clear. His attorney argued that the messages were dark humor and panic, not literal instructions. Then the prosecutor played the cloud recording. No one laughed. Madison chose to testify. She admitted taking the car and causing the crash but claimed Blake seized control of every decision afterward. She cried when describing her childhood, her mother's debt, and the humiliation she felt living beside me. Some of it was true. Pain can be true without becoming permission. On cross-examination, the prosecutor asked why she had spent months studying my life before she began dating Blake. Madison said she admired me. Did admiration cause you to photograph Ms. Hartwell while she slept? No. Did Mr. Holloway force you to dye your hair? No. Did he force you to steal the spare key? No. Did he force you to send Daniel Alvarez an anonymous message from a phone hidden in your purse? Madison looked at the jury. He made me feel like I had no choice, the prosecutor replied. Feeling influenced is not the same as having no choice. Blake did not testify. His attorney relied on reasonable doubt and attacked the idea that he intended my death. He argued that "they'll do the rest" could mean the Alvarez family would call police. The prosecution answered by showing the message telling Daniel to prevent my escape, Blake's insistence that I wear the same outfit, and the car positioned in the garage with the driver's side wiped clean. Then Daniel testified he described receiving the message, driving to the estate with a tire iron, and believing he was about to meet the woman who killed his family. What did you intend to do? The prosecutor asked. Daniel's hands trembled. I told myself I only wanted to stop her. That's what people say when they don't want to look directly at their own rage. The truth is, I did not care whether she lived. The courtroom was completely silent. And what changed your mind? She stood in front of me. She showed evidence. Then that other girl pulled off her scarf like she expected long hair underneath. Daniel looked toward Madison. When she saw Evelyn's head, she looked terrified, not surprised, terrified. That was when I understood someone had planned for me to see what they wanted me to see. My own testimony lasted most of a day. This time, the defense had more material with which to attack me. Therapy records I voluntarily limited, public statements, corporate influence, and the charitable trust Blake's attorneys suggested I had shaped Daniel's testimony through financial support. Daniel stood up in the gallery before the judge ordered him to sit. I answered, Mr. Alvarez chose his own counsel, his own public statements, and his own use of the trust. My family's support does not purchase his grief. The attorney asked whether I still experienced nightmares. Yes. Is it possible those nightmares altered your memory? The evidence does not depend on my dreams. What do you dream about? Mara objected. The prosecutor objected. The judge asked the attorney to explain relevance. He claimed my mental state affected interpretation of Blake's actions. The question was allowed in narrower form. I could have refused to give him anything dramatic. Instead, I said, I dream about being trapped in a car while people outside believe I am someone I am not. The words were true in both lives. Blake finally looked at me for a second. His expression suggested recognition, as if some part of him understood that I knew more than I should. Then the moment passed. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Madison was convicted of gross vehicular manslaughter, felony hit-and-run causing death, identity theft, evidence tampering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Blake was convicted of felony failure to render aid, accessory after the fact, identity theft, evidence tampering, and conspiracy to commit murder. When the clerk read the final count, Madison began to sob. Blake closed his eyes. I felt no explosion of joy, only a long internal pressure easing by degrees. The law had named what they did. That mattered. At sentencing 2 months later, Daniel spoke about Sophia, Mark, and Noah. He did not ask for vengeance. He asked the court to understand that every decision after the crash had multiplied the original harm. I gave a short statement. They did not only steal my car and my name, they attempted to steal the ability of everyone involved to recognize the truth. Their plan depended on grief becoming violence, wealth becoming guilt, friendship becoming access, and love becoming obedience. I survived because I stopped obeying. Madison received 28 years with the possibility of parole after the statutory minimum. Blake received 21 as deputies led them away. Blake turned. "I did love you," he said. "The old me might have needed to argue I did not." "No," I said, "you loved being believed." After the trial, people expected me to feel finished. They said I could move on now. As if a verdict were a door and all I had to do was walk through it. Moving on was less graceful. It was sleeping badly for 3 nights and well on the 4th, it was flinching when a Cobalt car passed me on the freeway. It was attending therapy on Tuesdays and learning that anger could be protective without becoming permanent. It was also deciding what to do with the hair growing around my face. My mother suggested a stylist. Social media polls offered opinions I had not requested. A fashion magazine asked to photograph the Rebirth bob. I declined. One Saturday morning, I stood in my bathroom with a pair of scissors and trimmed the ends myself. The cut was uneven. I laughed when I saw it. 18 years earlier, hair had become a symbol because other people assigned meaning to it. This time, I wanted it to remain hair. The Bright Tomorrow Foundation made 11 wigs from my donated braids and other hair gathered through the livestream campaign. June invited me to meet one recipient, a 16-year-old named Lily who had finished treatment for lymphoma. I almost said no. I worried the meeting would become another public redemption scene centered on me. June promised no media. Lily arrived wearing a baseball cap and immediately told me she hated inspirational speeches. "Good," I said, "I'm bad at them." She tried on a shoulder-length chestnut wig that contained part of my donation. When she looked in the mirror, she did not cry. She adjusted the part, frowned, and asked whether she could cut bangs. "It's yours," June said. Lily grinned, then, "Definitely bangs." That answer stayed with me. It's yours, not preserved for a boyfriend, not copied by a roommate, not interpreted by strangers. Yours. Daniel used part of the Stream Trust to create the Alvarez Response Initiative, which funded emergency call education and legal support for families navigating fatal traffic cases. He asked me to join the board. I declined the chair position and accepted an ordinary seat. "You're sure?" he asked. "Yes, the foundation should carry their name, not mine." He nodded. "You're getting better at not taking responsibility for everything. My therapist says the same thing." Daniel almost smiled. Crestmorn implemented new residence hall property policies, anonymous reporting procedures, and restrictions on donor involvement in disciplinary matters. The changes were imperfect and heavily publicized, but some were real. Hannah Cole became my roommate the following year after asking 3 times whether I was certain. On move-in day, she labeled her food, handed me a written list of shared items, and said, "I am never borrowing a car." I laughed harder than the joke deserved. I also returned to the leadership center that Grant Holloway had funded. His name had been removed after investigators reviewed his call to my father and several unrelated campaign finance issues. The building reopened as the Center for Civic Accountability. Institutions loved renaming things. Still, I enrolled in a seminar there about technology and evidence. I wanted to understand why the car's safety system preserved what people tried to erase. The course changed my academic direction. I shifted from general economics to a combined program in data ethics and corporate governance. For the first time, I chose a field without asking whether it matched my father's expectations or Blake's ambitions. My father was surprised, then proud. Our relationship changed too. Before the crash, he protected me by controlling information. Afterward, we argued about the difference between privacy and silence. "You kept me out of the press because you were afraid." I told him. "I had reasons, I know, but secrecy made it easier for someone else to use my name." He took that seriously. Hartwell Group created a public family office policy clarifying that no relative's identity could be used in transactions without independent verification. It sounded dry. It prevented the exact kind of social power Madison had exploited. My mother handled change differently. She brought me old photographs of herself with short hair, long hair, no hair during treatment, and a bright red wig she wore to make me laugh when I was 3. "You thought I loved your hair because it meant you were healthy," she said. "I loved it because it was yours. I would have loved every version." I looked at the photograph of her in the red wig. "I wish I had known that." You know now, on the first anniversary of the crash, Daniel invited a small group to Lake Merritt. We placed flowers near the intersection after the city installed a protected turn signal and lower speed barriers. No cameras were invited. I brought 3 white roses. Daniel brought Noah's blue fishing cap. For several minutes, we stood without speaking. I used to wonder why I came back too late, I said. Daniel glanced at me. Came back from where? I had never told him about the rebirth. I still did not know whether the truth would comfort or burden him. From not understanding, I said. He accepted that answer. I used to wonder why I wasn't there, he said. If I had picked Noah up from school, if Sophia had taken another road, if Mark had left work 5 minutes later. What stopped you? Nothing stopped me. I just learned the questions don't lead anywhere. The wind moved across the lake. I touched the ends of my short hair. Then what does? What we do next? 2 years after the crash, I graduated from Crestmorne University. The ceremony took place on the central lawn beneath white tents and banners that snapped in the wind. My parents sat in the front section. Hannah waved from 3 rows behind them. Mara arrived late from court and stood at the aisle until someone found her a chair. Daniel did not attend. Graduation belonged to the living, he said. And he had promised to take his sister's grandchildren fishing that morning. He sent a message instead. Use the day. Don't explain it. My hair had grown past my shoulders by then. I wore it tied back, not because anyone preferred it that way, but because the wind was strong and I did not want it in my face. When my name was called, the announcer did not say heiress, survivor, viral streamer, or victim. Evelyn Celeste Hartwell, Bachelor of Science in Data Ethics and Corporate Governance. I crossed the stage using my own name. That should not have felt revolutionary. It did. After the ceremony, a first-year student approached me near the library. She had long black hair and held her phone with both hands. Can I ask you something? She said. I expected a photograph request. Instead, she told me her roommate copied her clothes, entered her accounts, and made her feel guilty whenever she objected. Nothing had been stolen that seemed important enough to report. What should I do? She asked. I looked at the crowded lawn. Parents carried flowers. Graduates shouted across the grass. Somewhere, a band played badly. Write down what happened. I said. Change your passwords. Tell the housing office in writing. Tell someone who will not minimize it. And stop arguing about whether your boundary is nice enough. She nodded. Do you think she's dangerous? I don't know. You don't need certainty about danger to protect your privacy. That was the lesson I wished someone had given me before a missing lipstick became a missing key, before admiration became study, before love became permission. The student thanked me and left. My mother joined me. You missed the family photographs. I'm coming. She looked at my hair. The wind one. It usually does. We walked toward the fountain where my father waited. With Mara and Hannah, a photographer tried to arrange everyone by height. My father objected to standing in the back. Hannah told him billionaires still had to follow composition rules. I laughed. For years, I had thought safety meant predicting everyone around me, what they wanted, what would upset them. What version of myself would keep the room calm? That kind of safety was only another form of captivity. My second life did not become perfect after the trial. I made mistakes. I trusted people who disappointed me. I disappointed people who trusted me. I dated once and ended it when the man repeatedly called my boundaries trauma responses instead of respecting them. I bought another car, a modest electric sedan, and felt panic the first time someone asked to borrow it. I said no. The world did not end. Madison wrote to me from prison twice. The first letter blamed Blake, the second blamed me. I returned both unopened after Mara confirmed there was no legal reason to retain them. Blake never wrote. His appeal challenged the conspiracy conviction and failed. I learned about it from a court notice and felt less than I expected. Indifference was not dramatic enough for stories, but it was a form of freedom. The Cobalt Bentley was released from evidence after the appeals period. My father assumed I would destroy it. Instead, I donated it to a forensic training program after the blood-damaged exterior was replaced and all identifying features were removed. Investigators used it to teach collision data recovery and digital evidence preservation. The vehicle that had carried a lie became an instrument for finding truth. That transformation mattered to me more than revenge. On the evening after graduation, I returned alone to June and Finch Salon. June recognized me immediately. You kept growing it, she said. For a while. She raised an eyebrow. For a while. I sat in the same chair where 18 years of hair had fallen to the floor. The wall clock was different. The salon had been renovated. No livestream counter hovered above my reflection. What are we doing today? June asked. I considered my face in the mirror. I no longer saw the girl before the crash or the woman inside the burning car. I saw someone built from both and owned by neither. Cut it to my shoulders, I said. Whatever you think works. June gathered the hair and began. The scissors closed with a familiar sound. This time, no one panicked, no audience counted down, no enemy watched from a dorm room, no boyfriend waited to approve the result. Dark strands fell across the cape. I smiled at my reflection. In my first life, Madison stole my car, my clothes, my name, and finally my face in the eyes of a grieving family. In my second, I learned that identity was not the collection of things people could copy. It was the decision to speak when silence was easier. It was the courage to disappoint someone who benefited from my obedience. It was the boundary drawn before proof became tragedy. It was the life I chose after survival stopped being the only goal. June turned the chair so I could see the finished cut. What do you think? I ran my fingers through the clean ends. It feels like me. Outside, evening light covered the city in gold. People hurried along the sidewalk carrying groceries, flowers, briefcases, and private worries. Cars stopped at the intersection when the signal changed. I stepped into the crowd without a bodyguard, without a camera, and without looking over my shoulder. For the first time in either life, my name felt light enough to carry the END.